are being jailed. And in fact, we're looking at laws that are even more severe coming up with this conservative government.
But it's different, though, isn't it? Because you've got people who are essentially born that way.
No,
I'm born a woman, a black person is born that way. This is a choice. This is about altering your brain with a drug.
But you should be able to have that choice. Isn't religion altering your brain? When you take on a new religious cause, don't you alter your brain? You develop a new fervor, a new conversion, a new view of God. Taking drugs is a lot like discovering God. Sometimes it opens your minds up to things you've never thought of before. And I don't mean illegal drugs. I mean all drugs, all vegetables, fruits, potions, concoctions, alcohols, drugs of every kind, religious fervors, philosophies have the ability to change our mind. You know, banning marijuana is like saying let's ban a philosophy book.
Mark, do you love the fight?
No, I don't like to fight. I'd rather be canoodling with my wife all day, who's very beautiful and is a wonderful person. And we work all day together on our magazine.
Well, I mean, you have to look at your life, though, and what you've done. You've fought against a lot of things. You've gone to the mat for them. You've been arrested for them. What is it?
But, it's not but I don't like to fight.
Are you a rebel?
I'd really rather just have fun all day like most people. But the thing is, it's a calling. You know, 30 years ago, I decided that, you know, I was being chosen in a kind of like a mythological way to do this for people. It's always been my destiny to do this, and it's been my destiny probably to go to jail for this. And you have to accept that.
Okay, so are you going to plead guilty?
Well, ultimately, I've been induced to plead guilty and accept a 5-year jail sentence, actually a 10-year jail sentence with 5 years of guaranteed custody.
Emery says he's trying to cut this deal for one reason: to keep his 2 employees from going to prison. If he succeeds, Emery will be the only one serving time, and he'll spend most of it in a Canadian institution.
My lawyers have only been interested from day one in negotiating what to me is an honorously long jail sentence in exchange for sparing my other 2 co-accused. And that's always been the agenda for all 3 lawyers, is save these 2, you can't be saved. They literally tell me, all 3 of them say, you can't be saved. The treaties are terrible, they have sold you out, the Canadian government wants you gone, and the American government wants you put on ice so that you're not in a position to be active.
As I understand it, there might be a deal before you go to court. I mean, what is the status of negotiations for a deal?
I have nothing to say at all about that. As far as I'm concerned, things are moving forward.
And what does that mean, moving forward?
Well, the extradition hearing is scheduled for the 21st of January, and I think it's moving forward.
And would you accept a deal from his side if it met your requirements?
I wouldn't comment on that at all.
But you had it so good in Canada. I mean, I don't understand. You know, you wanted to take on the U.S. Why?
Because they're the source of the problem. Justice and liberty transcends borders. Just because I live in Canada doesn't mean I'm a leader of the cannabis culture for the whole world. My magazine circulates 4/5 in the United States. Most of the correspondence I do are with people in the United States. Yes, I am the leader of the BC Marijuana Party. Yes, I've run for office 10 times in this country since 1980 for various offices. But I have also started 10 U.S. marijuana parties statewide. I have contributed to candidates there. I've contributed to class action suits against the federal government. I gave money to ballot initiatives in Washington State, Colorado, Arizona, and Washington, D.C. We've spent millions of dollars trying to change the political landscape in the United States because that's the source of the problem. If marijuana were legal in the United States, it would be legal everywhere in the world.
He also says that he is a political activist and that he's on a crusade of sorts, and that you're really going after him for political reasons.
I know very little, if anything, about his politics or his activism. That takes place mostly up in Canada, and frankly, don't pay a lot of attention to that. I can tell you that, you know, being the prosecutor bringing these charges here in the United States, his political views have nothing to do with the charges at all.
5 years, that's good.
That's good. I don't think so myself. I mean, after
compared
all,
to a life sentence.
Well, you know, I'm 50 years old. I might only live till I'm 55 or 60, so it depends what you mean by that. For me, it's an injustice. After all, I didn't hurt anybody. There are no victims here. There's nobody who's ever complained. I've helped thousands and thousands of people in North America. I've only enriched people's lives. I've advocated a true cause, and I've been faithful to my convictions and everything I've ever told the Canadian people for 12 years. So I'm paying a penalty for not harming anybody whatsoever and for standing up for the beliefs of millions of Canadians. If the majority of Canadians think marijuana should be legal, that's everything I've done has been to that end. I'm not the bad guy. I'm never going to be the bad guy. I would fight this till the end. I don't care if I go to jail for 10, 15 years because my place in history is secure. My legacy to the people of the world is secure. I've fought my whole life to keep people out of jail for unjust laws that have punished them for their peaceful, honest lifestyle choices. And if I go to jail for that and the Canadian people let me go to jail, then so be it. But I know who I am, and I know what I've done, and I know how history will treat me. They won't treat the Canadian government, or perhaps the Canadian or American people who let this sort of thing happen, quite so well.
As for the Canadian people, he is a little bit disappointed that there hasn't been more of groundswell of support for him. As for the Canadian government, the Justice Minister, we contacted him several times looking for a comment, and he claims that he can't comment because it's still before the courts.
So this is a pretty crucial week. I mean, and he poses some interesting questions. He's obviously, as the court case comes this week, but those arguments he presents that the Canadian government happily collected as taxes over this, where does that put him? I mean, does this make this case significant for him in terms of not just the U.S. but for Canada as well?
It's extremely significant for him beyond the idea that he'll be spending years in prison. I mean, by the way, that deal includes a situation where he would be returned to Canada. But the United States government could say, or rather the Canadian government could say, look, we don't have to let you go. We don't have to surrender you to the United States. We'll keep you here, especially if they believe that the United States is persecuting him politically.
Right. But we don't know what's going to happen there. But they could say that. Does he want them to say that?
Absolutely, he wants them to say that. Yeah, that's his argument. He points to a press release from the DEA where they point out, we're getting the Prince of Pot, and he has funded many pro-legalization groups in the United States, and they'll have one less pot of money to rely on. So he says that's proof that they're going after him politically and that he's, being persecuted for his political beliefs.
If he loses this case, what does that mean for the movement of selling seeds and all that, and the kind of pot stores like his in Vancouver, and there's others around where people kind of are giving seeds like that, and if he wins, what does it mean? Is it kind of open season for this stuff?
Well, here's the thing. It's beyond winning and losing now. Because of the two people that he was involved with, he cut a deal so that he goes to the U.S. He goes to prison. He pleads guilty in the United States. He pleads guilty to the same charges in Canada, and the two people that his co-accused, they're let off, essentially. From jail time, they may still be charged on the books. He takes the fall in terms of serving time. So that's the deal that's being negotiated right now. It hasn't been signed yet. I should make that very clear. We'll find out most likely tomorrow morning what has been decided and agreed to. And the question for you at home is, what do you think? Should Marc Emery be handed over to the U.S. justice system? Do you see him as a criminal, or, as he describes himself, a leading citizen? We'd like to hear your thoughts on all the stories we bring you. Here's how to reach us. You can write to us at CBC News Sunday, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, Ontario, M5W1E6. Our email address is sunday@cbc.ca, or visit us online anytime at cbc.ca/Sunday. You can watch our stories on our website, and you can discuss them with other viewers. Get a thread going. And finally, for more on Marc Emery, you should watch for the documentary called Prince of Pot, the U.S. versus Marc Emery, if you're interested. It airs on the Newsworld program The Lens, and that's this Tuesday at 10 p.m.
And he is a very articulate guy.